The gradual weakening of the Ottoman Empire cannot be understood without examining the steady expansion of Russia and the profound strategic losses that followed. By the 18th century, Russia had emerged as the empire's most dangerous rival, pursuing a long term strategy aimed at territorial expansion, religious influence, and access to warm water ports. This rivalry reshaped the balance of power in Eastern Europe and the Black Sea region, placing the Ottoman state under sustained military and diplomatic pressure. For centuries, the Ottoman Empire had dominated the Black Sea, controlling key ports, trade routes, and strategic choke points. This dominance ensured both economic strength and military security. However, as Russia modernized its army and centralized its state institutions, it began challenging Ottoman control over this vital region. The Crimean Peninsula became the focal point of this struggle, symbolizing both Ottoman authority and imperial vulnerability. The Crimean Khanate had long served as a buffer state between the Ottoman Empire and its northern rivals. Although semi-autonomous, it remained politically loyal to Istanbul and played a crucial role in regional defense. Russian ambitions targeted this buffer, recognizing that weakening Crimea would expose Ottoman territories in the Balkans and Anatolia. Repeated Russo-Ottoman wars gradually eroded Ottoman influence in the Crimean region. While some conflicts ended without immediate territorial collapse, each war shifted the strategic balance in Russia's favor. Russian forces demonstrated growing military efficiency, while Ottoman armies struggled with outdated structures, logistical problems, and internal resistance to reform. The turning point came in the aftermath of one of the most damaging conflicts between the two empires. The resulting Treaty of Kuchuk-Kanarka marked a decisive moment in Ottoman decline, not because of massive territorial loss alone, but because of the diplomatic precedents it established. For the first time, Ottoman sovereignty was challenged through legal and political mechanisms rather than direct conquest. Under the treaty, the Crimean Khanate was declared independent from Ottoman authority. In reality, this independence weakened Ottoman influence while leaving Crimea vulnerable to Russian manipulation. Within a short period, Russia effectively absorbed the region, achieving its long-standing goal without immediate large-scale warfare. This loss deprived the Ottomans of their northern defensive shield and exposed the empire's inability to protect its allies. The treaty also granted Russia the right to protect Orthodox Christian subjects within Ottoman territory. This clause became one of the most damaging diplomatic concessions in Ottoman history. Although framed as a religious protection measure, it provided Russia with a legal justification to interfere in Ottoman internal affairs. Any dispute involving Orthodox communities could now be transformed into an international issue. This development fundamentally altered the nature of diplomacy between the Ottoman Empire and European powers. Internal governance, once considered a sovereign matter, became subject to foreign scrutiny and pressure. Russia repeatedly used its new status to demand reforms, influence appointments, and challenge Ottoman authority in the Balkans. The erosion of sovereignty did not stop there. The treaty allowed Russian ships access to the Black Sea and Mediterranean trade routes, ending the Ottoman monopoly over these waters. Economically, this weakened Ottoman merchants and increased dependence on foreign trade networks. Strategically, it allowed Russia to project naval power into regions previously dominated by the empire. Ottoman leaders recognized the dangers posed by these concessions, but options were limited. Military defeat had forced their hand, and rejecting the treaty risked renewed war that the empire could not afford. Diplomacy became a tool of survival, even as it undermined long-term independence. Russian expansion following the treaty was methodical rather than reckless. Instead of immediate large-scale invasions, Russia consolidated influence through diplomacy, political pressure, and selective military actions. Each move respected the letter of international agreements while violating their spirit, leaving the Ottomans with few legal grounds for resistance. The Crimean loss had psychological as well as strategic consequences. It shattered the perception of Ottoman invincibility and encouraged other powers to challenge imperial authority. European states increasingly viewed the empire as a declining force whose territory and influence could be negotiated among rivals. Internally, the impact was destabilizing. Subject populations in the Balkans took inspiration from Russian involvement, believing foreign intervention could support their grievances. Ottoman administrators faced growing unrest while lacking the authority and resources to respond effectively. The Treaty of Küçük also set a precedent that would be repeated in later agreements. Diplomatic settlements increasingly included clauses that restricted Ottoman sovereignty, imposed reforms, or granted foreign privileges. Each treaty further limited the empire's freedom of action. Despite these setbacks, the Ottoman state did not collapse immediately. Reforms were attempted, military modernization began, and diplomatic strategies evolved. However, these efforts operated within a framework already shaped by disadvantage. Russia's gains could not be reversed without decisive military success, which remained beyond Ottoman capacity. The empire's reliance on diplomacy became both a necessity and a weakness. Negotiations aimed to prevent further losses, but often resulted in new concessions. Foreign powers learned that pressure, rather than warfare, could extract benefits from a state desperate to preserve peace. By the 19th century, Russian influence had become embedded in Ottoman affairs. From the Balkans to the Black Sea, Russian interests shaped outcomes that once depended solely on imperial authority. The Ottomans remained formally sovereign, but in practice, their autonomy was increasingly constrained. The Crimean question continued to haunt Ottoman diplomacy. Even when later conflicts temporarily checked Russian power, the structural damage caused by earlier treaties could not be undone. Sovereignty lost through diplomacy proved harder to reclaim than territory lost in battle. Historians now view the Treaty of Küçük as a defining moment in the empire's decline. It demonstrated how military weakness translated into diplomatic vulnerability and how international law could be used as a weapon against declining states. Russian expansion did not destroy the Ottoman Empire overnight. Instead, it reshaped the rules under which the empire operated. Strategic losses accumulated quietly, often hidden behind legal language and formal agreements. In the end, the Ottoman Empire's struggle against Russian expansion reveals a deeper lesson about power in the modern world. Sovereignty depends not only on borders and armies, but on the ability to negotiate from strength. When that strength fades, diplomacy becomes a tool not of preservation, but of erosion. The loss of Crimea, the concessions of Küçük and the rise of foreign interference marked a new era in Ottoman history, one in which the empire remained on the map but no longer fully in control of its destiny.